Okay, good afternoon, and I'm very happy to see many old faces and some new faces. I'm going to talk about a topic which, because in one day we are going to welcome the new U.S. President Donald Trump one more time. Okay, so my focus today is going to be more on understanding. Who the new Trump is, okay? And so we will have some flashing back to the older meaning, the first term of Trump, and then I will express my views about what Trump, in my view, will do in his second term and beyond. Then we were going to draw some implications on the implication on China, okay, and the Chinese economy. But today's focus will be more on understanding Donald Trump. Okay. So let me start by showing you some photos that I secretly took when I was taking my daughter to tour the U.S. Universities in 2016. That's on July the 7th in Boston, in a bookstore. I saw this comic book, and which vividly showed Trump and his small hand and so on. So I went to the Amazon to just take a look whether the book is still there. The book is still there, and it's rated 4.5 by 1,000 people. And for the first time, I noticed that the book has some interesting poem, which I show you here in bold font and bigger font, and then the translation. So you can see that at that time, okay, for a U.S. Presidential candidate, okay, and he was described in such a way. Its skin, the beastie is called American Trump. Okay? Its skin is bright orange, its figure is plump, its fur so complex you might get enveloped. Its hands, though, are sadly underdeveloped. Do you dare to write a similar poem to describe a leader of some other countries? And so it's very insulting, but that's how Trump was, I think, treated, because nobody took him seriously as a presidential candidate. And about 3 weeks before the election on that year is on November the 10th. The New York Times predicted that Hillary Clinton would won 91% of the vote, and Trump only 9%. Then about 2 weeks, 16 days to be precise, before the election, CNN was predicting that Hillary Clinton would win double digits. Unfortunately, the true battle is not a fiction. Right? And yesterday I was giving a whole day class to the homecoming of GEMBA, HEMBA. So when I was talking about this, I actually said the following. I said that, it ends, everything ends with the true battle, right? It's like in CEIBS, when we recruit professors, when we promote or evaluate professors, you can have a regular ruler used by all other countries, all other universities with publications, whatever, right? But the true battle for professors in CEIBS is to perform in the classroom. I mean, no matter how high you are, of course that is relevant. But if you cannot win the real battle, you're out. I mean, and I think this is why U.S. Election is for real, and so the result is Trump won. Okay, despite the small hands are not relevant. I mean, so in Trump's first 100 days, he did a lot of things, right? First, he withdrew from the trade deal that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, initiated. That's called the TPP, and the TPP is 12 countries around the Pacific, which organize a high-level trade bloc that the purpose is to prevent China from dominating the global trade. And he withdrew. Second, he started to build this wall, around the U.S.-Mexican border to stop, illegal immigrants. Then he started to put more money on military and space projects. Then he started to cut the climate change policies, initiated, implemented under the Obama administration. And within the 100 days, he welcomed the other prominent leader that he will deal with in his presidency. That's China's President Xi Jinping in the Florida, Mar-a-Lago home of Trump. And this is a picture from that meeting, and that was an official meeting, between the two strong persons, right? I mean, and the strong leaders, and each one is very significant in their own country, and of course, both are very significant for the world. And so they had personal contacts. We all know that personal contacts are so important, right? And so that was what Trump did. Okay, I think Trump, even he is a new person in political arena, but he did all the important things. I mean, you can disagree with what he did, but he did things. That's what he was doing. Right? So we all remember that 2017, the Chinese Communist Party held a very important meeting in which Xi Jinping, started his second term, right? And then, starting from then, Xi Jinping's period is described as a new era, right? 新时代 for China. Right? So that was really a big narrative, right? And I guess that Trump was very jealous of Xi Jinping, right? Because Trump wanted to rule the United States forever, right? But he would not be able to do that. But Trump is very much having this competitive spirit. Say you're a lucky guy. You get a new era. How about I get a new moment? I mean, and so I cannot. Even I would be re-elected. I would only have 8 years, right? And so, but I would make something new also. I think he is looking at Xi Jinping, like in a hypothetical way, cheers, you know, your new era, my new moment, right? But again, I think he did things, right? I mean, so you laugh, you have good, nice words, you have good meals together, but you know, you will do the true things, right? I mean, that is on March the 22nd, 2018, Trump launched the trade war, what we call trade war now, but that was just tariffs on Chinese goods. Right? So if I had the whole day to talk about, I would talk about half a day on you know, what kind of battles from between China and the U.S. In the first you know, trade war, but we do not have the time today. So this is why, you know, in order to learn more, you need to really apply for CEIBS program, and I almost teach each and every program, and each and every program got a piece of me, and so this is how, you know, Trump. You know, you could call Trump to be lucky in 2016, and I think there's a lucky part, right? I mean, if Hillary Clinton would be a little bit too seriously with regard to Trump, probably Hillary Clinton would win the election. But nobody took like serious about Trump, right? But the American people, at least more than half of it. I cannot say that, right? Because he even do not win the population, you know, half. But this time, I don't think Trump is getting lucky. This time, Trump, although, you know, in terms of this election map, Trump only get one more state, that's Nevada, right? 6, you know, these tickets, which makes Trump. But he won the population, you know, battle. That is more than half of the people who voted Trump, right? And this is, and the Congress also was taken by the Republicans, and it is really speaks, you know, very loudly about the choice of American people. Yeah. But we all know Trump is some uncertainty or some risk, right? So, you know, in order to understand the Trump, this Trump, I went to Amazon again to see whether there are some new books for children to read. You know? Yes, there are quite a few, okay, a dozen. And this one is an example. That's published in December the 10th. You know, this year, last year the election was on early November, right? And this is a child book, and then this time the narrative is so different. Right? This book sparks meaningful conversations about ambition, resilience, and civic engagement. In Chinese, 雄心论性公民参与 whether read at a bad time in the classroom or during family story time, this engaging tale resonates with children aged 3 to 10 and the adults who share it with them, right? Of course, you would also have, if you know, if you want, you would also find some negative children book, you know, written by the other side. But I do think that whether you like him or you do not like him, he becomes a serious political figure, right? And so that is important. So I was invited, or actually, you know, the school was invited to send some professor, you know, to provide some views to the Chinese. I mean, this time is the municipal government of Shanghai, you know, in terms of you know how we view Trump and what kind of implication for China and for Shanghai. And so I was sent by our President Wang to attend, as a professor, from non-state run school. I would be the last to speak, but that put me in a very good position that I've heard all the views from the other experts, and then I was allocated about 7-8 minutes, so I used 4 minutes to talk about my understanding of Trump 2.0. Okay, I summarize in 4 points. Okay, first, we will still see a businessman like Trump, but actually this time he is not going to be a businessman. This time he is going to be an ideologist, a true politician, and he will be really leading the return of conservatism to the U.S. mainstream. So if we still think that we can make a deal with with Trump, and you think that he is a businessman-minded person, I think it's deadly wrong. Second, I think he will focus more internally on building the strength of the United States. So to build the strength, you need to raise efficiency, right? Not only the efficiency of the economy, but the efficiency of the government. Okay. And I think many of us, okay, maybe including myself, thinks that U.S. has been moving too left, right? And a lot of political correct, views. We say that something we cannot say in China. Try it in U.S., right? So a lot of things you cannot even say publicly in United States. If you are a college or university president, you say something which I don't think it's something that cannot be said in most part of the world. But if you say in United States, you are immediately driven out of your position. You lose your job, and so I think turning from this far left more towards the right. Of course, Trump would want to turn it to the extreme right, but of course he would not have his thing, 100%. But isn't it a good thing to turn U.S. from far left a little bit towards the right? And people think that Trump has a big ego. He has, but this time I think he will use people more on belief rather than on loyalty to him. He would use more people with younger age, so that after he finishes his term, Trump is still there. Right? And so he will build a Trump era rather than a Trump moment this time. And in the end, if you know anything about Ronald Reagan, and I will give you some explanation about Ronald Reagan. I think all in all, whether it's Ronald Reagan or today's Trump, the keyword is strength. Maybe in the first term of Trump, the keyword is we, me, right? But this time it's about strength, okay? Ego, whatever. I think the establishment of such a department called the Department of Government Efficiency, although it's not an official department, it does not need to be approved by the Congress and so on. But the word efficiency is really what is the fundamental thing for building strength. How you build strength? You raise efficiency. And look at the Trump team, of course, he has people like, his Secretary of State, right, in the 70s, but he has many in the 80s, right? I mean, and the age, is exactly the age of our GEMBA students, right? I mean, so after you are seasoned with business, you apply for CEIBS GEMBA program. After you are seasoned politically, but you do not need to wait until you are 60s, right? To be a top official. Right? I think that tells a lot, right? And as I always say, right, the future is in younger generation's hand. No matter how big, how great you are, you cannot beat age. Right? You have to give the stage to younger people. And the earlier you do, the more likely you can build your legacy towards the future. And Trump is doing that. I forgot the date, right? One of the when at one point in his campaign trail, he was shot. Like Trump himself said, right? He used just to speak like this, but this time, for some reason, he turned to look at the screen, which has the script. He turned the head, and the bullet did not hit the brain, but hit the ear. Right? And I think that's a defining moment, defining moment for Trump. Okay. Whether you are a religious person or you are not a religious person, if you experiencing that redefines you, right? Any of us, right? If you had a very sudden, close death experience, you become a different person. I think Trump, he himself, after was having this incident, said that. He believes nobody. Of course, he's a Christian, but he thinks he is a God, right? He does everything for himself, right? I mean, to show off his whole life, right? I was in U.S., he was doing this TV show and so on. Every time coming out, right? He is like no other people in the world. I'm Trump. Right? But look, God tells you, right? This time, work for me, rather work for yourself. Be humble, rather than be ego-driven. Right? I think that defines Trump to be a new Trump, which is not centered on himself, but centered on this mission that is return U.S. to conservative land. I think that is, in my view, it's a very clear thing. Trump's idol is Ronald Reagan. Okay. So in order to understand Trump 2.0, we need to understand Ronald Reagan. Okay. So Reagan was elected as U.S. president at a very old age. Okay, not as old as Trump, but it's in the 70s, right? And he defeated a very good man named Jimmy Carter, who passed away about 10 days ago, right, at the age of 100. Jimmy Carter was a very humble, very religious, very warm-hearted person. Unfortunately, he was not good at managing the economy. Okay, therefore, and during his presidency, Jimmy Carter, actually the official normalization of relationship between China and the United States was completed in Jimmy Carter's term. And when Deng Xiaoping went to the United States, it's Jimmy Carter who welcomed Deng Xiaoping, and they, really, talked about the relationship between the two big countries, and that was the starting of China's reform and opening period. Right? Without the U.S., I would not say support, but without U.S. being part of it, China would not have this opening and reform era as successful. So Jimmy Carter, it's not all his fault, but it's a lot of things before Jimmy Carter. When I was talking about yesterday, I have more slides, and just let me, in my memory, mention a few. Right? So when JFK was assassinated, his vice president, Lyndon Johnson, right, became the president. And during Lyndon Johnson's presidency, U.S. was building a great society. Okay, if you hear any country to do great things, be careful. Right? And the greatest things may not be that great for ordinary people. Yeah. So then, in the 70s, there's also this oil shock and so on. So if you have learned macroeconomics, you know that the 70s was having this stagflation. Okay, stagflation means the economy is in recession while the inflation rate is double digit. Right? And this is the time when Ronald Reagan was elected. Okay, I show you the map. Okay. Don't tell me ordinary people do not know who to vote. Okay. Don't tell me that people only vote based on their political belief. People vote for their happiness. Okay? Period. Right? Personal happiness, rather than the happiness of the whole people. Right? And so, of course, I don't think many people disrespect Jimmy Carter. But during Jimmy Carter's presidency, the economy is awful. Then they elected Ronald Reagan, who was a Hollywood second-class actor. But you see, Jimmy Carter was from Georgia, so Jimmy Carter's, country folks still voted for him. And his vice president, called Mondale, was from Minnesota. Minnesota, other than these two, almost nothing, right? Then after these 4 years, this is amazing 4 years, okay? Then look at, and the vice president is running this is Mondale. So only these home people save his face of giving the votes, right? And some little place. It's almost completely, getting the opponent close to zero. Okay, right. American people have so much experience about, democracy and using their power, so on. Okay, anybody, right? You do not need to be a CEIBS graduate to know whom to vote for. Right? And you ask your barber, you ask your massage person, you ask the delivery person about the status of Chinese economy today. They will tell you immediately. Right? You don't need the National Bureau of Statistics, to tell you. Right? Okay. And interestingly, right, the idol of Trump, Ronald Reagan, was assassinated much seriously than Trump's year, And on that early day of Reagan's first presidency, right? There's one guy, crazy guy, who would have a fantasy of the Hollywood actress Judy Fox, And then, of course, they don't know each other. But the guy was watching the movies and so on, was having a fantasy, with this Jodie Foster. And then he wanted to impress Jodie Foster. He went to shoot Reagan. And 4 shots. 1 guard was killed. 1 staff member was eventually, not able to walk. And 1 shot went to the lung of Reagan. He immediately was down, and fortunately, for America and for the whole world, allow me to say that he survived. And he was a very humorous person. When his wife Nancy came to the hospital, Reagan was just saying, "Honey, I forgot to dodge." So what did Reagan do, which made him so popular, and which made him one of the greatest presidents in U.S. history, other than George Washington, Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, and Roosevelt? I think if you choose 4, the number 4 would be Ronald Reagan. Of course, a lot of people do not like Reagan because he make rich people more rich. That's a fact. Do you expect a perfect leader? No, right? It's like what I just earlier said, right? It's about the true battle. In U.S. or in political arena, the true battle is voting, right? If you get more votes, then you win, right? It's not about arguing, philosophically, or listing how many bad things the guy does. Everybody does bad things, right? It's about whether, I feel like this politician or this top leader, is having more good than bad to me, personally, to my family. That's it, right? And so he did something which later was called Reaganomics. And he himself said it very clearly. What is Reaganomics? The essence is that the government is not the solution to problems. Government is the problem. Right? I think today we are not talking about what kind of philosophy you believe in. Okay, you can believe in whatever you believe in, right? But I think, as a matter of fact, that sentence applies to all countries. Okay, Then the pillars of Reaganism, Reaganomics, one is called supply side economics. You know that macroeconomics is demand side. Okay, Keynesian is about insufficient demand. We need to government spending, cut tax, and so on. And in the short run, we do not talk that much about the supply side, other than President Xi Jinping's supply side reform. President Xi Jinping's supply side reform is not this. President Xi Jinping's supply reform is that because China, the model of China's growth is produce overcapacity. Cutting overcapacity, that's on the supply side, is President Xi Jinping's supply side reform, okay? And that's a unique thing for China. That's unique, because other countries, other systems would not build this much overcapacity, right? Means cutting overcapacity on the supply side is President Xi Jinping's supply side reform. But what is supply side economics? That is, you do some policy that makes people more stimulated, okay? So you do not take this labor L as fixed, right? You take this labor L as related to incentives, right? If CEIBS provides this incentive for professors to work hard, then we work hard. The same person should be, if I were in Fudan University, I would lie flat. Right? And so that is the supply side economics. Okay? Then the deregulation is to, although U.S. is not a state-owned economy country, but in the past 20 years before Reagan, the government is doing this regulation, that regulation. You can do this, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. Okay, I think people from Europe would have this as a quite a common thing, right? But in the United States, right, I think the original spirit of US is, doing business is none of the business of the government. The government continues to do things and that, and these regulations were reduced or eliminated by Reagan. That's called deregulation. Of course, Reagan is not like making the government small in all aspects. Reagan would make the government small on the economic side, but Reagan would build, put more money on military and on this, space program. Or in today would be like the AI program and so. Okay, so as I teach my students, right? We are no longer in the world of Adam Smith, that laissez-faire free economy is the best, right? Because a lot of things like innovation, like learning, like climate change, as I teach my MBA students, they all have externalities. That is, it's not about, the market would ask you to invest 1 million. But because this 1 million investment in innovation will have some externality effect, which means that free of charge for some other people, right? Then that benefit would not be included in your decision if you are market-driven. Therefore, if you want to do the right amount of innovation, you do need the government, okay, to have a law. And Reagan is having a law in these public goods, such as defense, right? And such as pushing the technology frontier, okay? That does not make Ronald Reagan not a market believer. That actually makes him the market believer, okay? And then the monetary side is for the Fed, but Reagan was very lucky to have a very capable Fed chairman and Paul Walker, okay, and they together changed the US economy. So what is this supply side economics? If you had been in US long, you would know that if there's a bigger conference, you went to the cafeteria, you might just sit together with a very bigger guy, like a Nobel Prize laureate. That's very common. Okay, when I was attending the American Economic Association meeting, I often just sit in the same table of some very big guys, and then we have casual talk. It's just that at that time there were no these phones, so I cannot prove it. Right? And but I think in the past when we were in the United States, in my generation, taking photo with other people is something viewed very cheap, and therefore I regret that I did not have these moments. Otherwise, I have much more things to post on my WeChat. Right? And but this young economist was having here a breakfast table with Reagan, and he used the napkin to draw this graph, famous graph, which is later named after him, called Laffer graph. So the Laffer graph is simple, right? If you have 75% tax on people's income, people work less, like put less effort in work, and your tax base is smaller, then you get this much tax revenue. If you cut the tax rate from 75 to 25, people work harder, put more effort, and the tax base is as big, and the tax revenue is as big, right? That's the point. That is, if you care about the government resources, the solution is not to increase the tax. The solution is to decrease the tax. Okay, I probably can say that we all know that in China the marginal tax rate is 45%. Right? If I make 100,000, the time I step out of the classroom, in my pocket, only 55,000. Right? 45,000 are gone, without a thank you, and even do not know where it goes. Right? And I wanted to get it, taken, but I want to know that it's given to like our drivers and so on. So no, it's going to the country, okay? And the country is the collection of all people, okay? And so anyway, I don't think it is an issue of academic issue of see whether this is the empirically proved or not. It's not. This is not the point. The point is, do you believe that spirit? And so after Reagan, I do not have the time to talk about the monetary side. The monetary side is as exciting. Okay, I may have a few slides, but you can see the result of Reaganomics, right? And the economic growth rate. After he started his first presidency in 1982, I think. Then it's on average 3.5% real GDP growth for the United States. Before that, it was maybe only 1%. Then look at the unemployment rate, right? And if we talk about today's Chinese economy, you cannot avoid talking about the unemployment rate, although we do not have the exact, statistics. But we know China is now having very big problem in unemployment. And the US is having very transparent data. Right? And after, during the Reagan period, it was going down to 5%. And today we are talking about inflation or deflation. And when Reagan started his presidency, under Jimmy Carter's presidency, the inflation rate was two digits, right? And this is the stagflation period. And then after the policies especially by the Fed chairman Paul Volcker. Paul Volcker is a 2-meter tall person. He once was here on this stage. He was invited by us to give some speech quite many years ago. Yeah, he passed away, but the great guy. If I had to say who is the greatest U.S. Fed chairman, or maybe even the greatest central bank governor in the world, that's Paul Volcker, not Greenspan. Okay. I hope our Mr. Pan would have a shot if our now central bank governor is Pan Gongsheng, okay, and he's still young. He has many years, and China's problem is as challenging as at that time. Okay, if he would turn the table around, then he would be the greatest central bank governor. Yeah. This is what I say, the true battle. Right? We all know that Chinese male soccer team sucks. Right? Why you say they sucks? Because they are real games. In these real games, they are beaten, like crazy. Right? So if you put things to real battle, then you can say things. Okay, you cannot say that we have so great, like scientific. We are good also in ChatGPT. We are good also in chip building. Put it into context. Right? So this is for real, right? And you get inflation down. Well, Trump be a new Reagan. I don't think he can. Yeah, I think he wanted very much, okay, to be a new Reagan, or even more greater than Reagan, at least as great. But I think he is not. Reagan is not like trained as a great president. Reagan is naturally a great president. Okay, he does not do a lot of things. He just writes small notes to his wife during the Oval Office, unlike Jimmy Carter, who works day and night in the Oval Office. Okay. It's about, at the most important issues, do you have the leadership, right? Imagine that if a mediocre president of the United States in his first term, would he dare to allow the Fed chairman to increase the benchmark interest rate to 20%? 20% kill the economy. Would you dare to have a deep recession when you were a president facing the second term? He did, right? Of course, he did other things to rescue out of it. If you have learned macroeconomics here, you know that the demand is equal to C plus I plus G plus NX, right? That is consumption demand, investment demand, and external demand, right? If you raise the interest rate to 20%, you kill the consumption demand, you kill the investment demand. So the only thing that can actually help you during the short period is this export. This is the background of the Plaza Accord, 广场协议, okay? And Reagan, of course, not himself, but his finance minister and so on, had a meeting in New York City, the Plaza Hotel, with the Japanese, the Western German, and the British, France, and then they agreed. That's called the Plaza Accord. That is, from the next day on, the other countries would use their reserves to buy their own currency in the market. As a result, U.S. dollar, after everybody dumping U.S. dollar depreciate sharply, and the German mark and the Japanese yuan, increase in value, and that helped Reagan, to boost the economy, to offset the high interest rate negative shock, by having a positive export shock, right? I mean, so that, therefore, he killed, he and the power worker killed the inflation, and then do something to make the economy go up before his second election. Then he was elected almost by each and every American voter, right? I mean, so this is called leadership. Right? Leadership is not do easy things. Leadership is do hard things, as we learn from economics. Economics is about a choice. If you can achieve both A, B, C, and D all together, why do we want you? Right? You have to choose between A and B and C. You get A, you suffer B and C. You get low inflation, you suffer economic growth. That's called leadership. Right? And Trump looks like he has this kind of decision-making power, but I don't think his mind is as naturally talented as Ronald Reagan. Other thing is that his views on trade and immigration just will backfire. Very too extreme. Okay, it's not good for the United States. However, I think we may see a new Trump. Okay, the new Trump is going to be more like Ronald Reagan than like the Trump 1.0, okay? How do I know, okay? I have already seen a few signs. First, of course, the Washington Post is not a tablet, newspaper. It's a very serious newspaper. It has good, sources, right? The Washington Post, reported that Trump's aides are talking about a very small-scale tariff program, rather than the ones he mentioned during the campaign. Of course, Trump would have came out to deny, I never do this, okay? But I teach students to develop a way of finding information that you want, but not directly observed, right? From some revealed channel, right? If Trump would be so serious about having a high tariff rates, especially against China, Trump would reappoint this guy called Leipziger. Leipziger is the one who managed all the Sino-US trade war on the US side. Okay? He was a person, official, in the Reagan administration to deal with at that time, US's commercial enemy is Japan. So to push Japan on the trade side, Leipziger was one of the aides. Then he became a lawyer afterwards, dealing with international trade affairs. Then he was appointed as the head for trade by Trump during the first administration of Trump, and then he designed the whole thing about tariff wars against China. He is still good health, but he was given no position by Trump. I think that reveals that Trump really do not want to go back to this kind of trade war, right? And but this person knows how to do this kind of trade war. Right? Secondly, you think Trump is anti-immigration. He was during the first period presidency. He was like no difference, right? So all the immigration are bad, illegal, not illegal. But this time, I think he is very keen on attracting high-skilled immigrants. Okay, I think put everything aside. If Chinese students want to stay in U.S. to work for a period of time, Trump is good news. Trump may have programs such as for any non-American, including Chinese students who are having say master's degree in scientific field, automatically this visa and even automatic green card. So that kind of things, honestly, if I would advise the United States, I would definitely advise the US to do this, because that's the fundamental strength of America. You attract the best talent all over the world, from all over the world, right? If you stop this, then we can do that. Of course, after Shanghai quarantine, maybe it's difficult for us to say that we are better than US. Shanghai is a very attractive place to non-Chinese. And in the past, we had no problem attract young people to apply for our MBA program and so on, right? And also non-Chinese professors. Right? Now, difficult, impossible, and they are gone. Right? I mean, we have a very beautiful, woman, female young professor, Emily David, a young white lady, who, when she joined the CEIBS, was an assistant professor, and she grew up, in CEIBS. Where is she now? Singapore, right? And after being locked down for 4 months, of course, One reason is because her husband or boyfriend were reallocated to Singapore. Then we ask, what's the reason for his boyfriend to be reallocated? Right? The same reason, right? And unfortunately, the first time I went to, after this opening, like last year, I went to Singapore to promote our English program. And the people I meet are all those who have left Shanghai within the 1 year to promote for home. Right? I want to promote them to come to Shanghai, but they just left Shanghai. Yeah. Okay. So, I think Trump is trying to build a Trump era based on strengths. Okay, allow me to quote a very famous sentence expressed by our top diplomat, Yang Jiechi, on March the 18th in Alaska, March 18th, 2021, in the meeting with Blinken. And I think that is definitely the core of U.S.-China diplomatic relation. Mr. Yang said, the United States does not have the qualification to say that it wants to speak to China from a position of strength. This is not the way to deal with the Chinese people. Okay, I think if you know Chinese, the translation is too mild, right? The original word that Yang Jiechi said is 美国没有资格在中国面前说美国可以从实力的地位出发同中国讲话，因为中国人民不吃这一套，对吧？But the key word is strength, right? So from China's point of view, we are strong enough. So you cannot deal with us, saying that we are stronger than you. So you have to listen to me, right? I think that's a good thing to say, right? But if you are on the U.S. side, isn't it true that if China is saying that we cannot speak on the basis of strength, then the thing you do is to increase your strength. Right? Similarly for China, right? If you want U.S. 不吃你这一套, you increase your strength. If you decrease this, weaken your strength, then you are betraying your country to make U.S. dominating you. That's pure and blank, right? I mean, it's all about strength. Of course, I don't think it's all about strength. It's about moral standard. It's about universal value. Okay? A lot of other things. But if you think strength is the thing, then let's do the strength. Right? So, U.S. is the most free market in the world. Okay, despite this Trump tariff, but on average, U.S. is only 1.5% tariff rate, one of the lowest in the world, lowest probably among bigger advanced countries. Of course, Canada is lower. Right? So, what is the Trump tariff effect? The first round Trump tariff effect. That is, over the time, after Trump lost the election to Biden, and Biden continues the tariff on China, in the world, it's only China are suffering high tariff from U.S. Other countries are enjoying lower tariff. Look at the furniture, right? The furniture to the United States, all other countries are enjoying close to 0% tariff. But China had to pay 20% tariff. This is why our alumnus who are doing these kind of things having moving their factory to Indonesia, right? Then put a label made in Indonesia to enter, right? Indonesia is having 1% tariff rate. Look at U.S. imports of kitchen cabinets, right? In the past, this is the market share in U.S. of China. Look at today. Right? Japan, Vietnam, and so on. And the U.S., China is close to 0. Look at the semiconductor, right? And despite U.S. put some 5% tariff on other countries, but now they dropped to 0%. But look at the tariff on China. It's still 22%, right? Look at all the sectors which China had a big share in 2017, and look at the share today. You lose across the border. Okay. You lose. Admit it. You don't? Despite we still, you are not. If Trump continues to do that, you are going to lose even more. Okay. And as a result, at the aggregate level, I think I will have 5 minutes more to wrap it up. You can see that China used to be just dominating in terms of taking more than 20% of US market in all goods. Right? Now it was dropped, and Mexico became the top, importer of the United States in 2023. Look at this is 2024. Okay, about 3 days ago, the State Bureau released the performance of the Chinese economy in 2024. Okay, so I made this because you can, as all students in my class must have known, you can decompose, right, the contribution from among consumption, investment, and export, right? And the others are very, very much low. Okay, both consumption and, but China can still, if we believe the Bureau of Statistics that China achieved 5% growth rate last year, I think that was because of this. That's because you are able to export to the world, increase by about 6%. More importantly, you export to the United States, increase by 4.9%. Right? A part of it is because American companies or they fear that after Trump became the president, the tariff will be high, so they just import in advance. Right? If that's the case, then that number would drop, right? And so on. Okay. So the point is that we are still relying so much on exports. Are there areas that China exports a lot? Yeah, this electronic battery, right? This video game, and so on. Okay, but if you are exporting things like you cannot now export this much steel to advanced countries, so you instead export to India, to Vietnam, and so on. Okay, do you think that can be sustainable? Until you're going to also, like ignite the political, pressure from these countries against you, right? And China's macroeconomic situation is quite bad, right? We do not have unemployment rate as like in other countries, but we do have a measure of young people's unemployment rate. Before 2023, that number includes students, college students. And then that number went to 21.3. In June 2023, then China stopped publishing that data. Right? And then after a few months, they came up with the new measure that exclude the students. And at the beginning, it was like 10%. Now that excluding student number is, in my latest memory, it's like 17%. Then maybe we have to adjust the definition again. Yeah. And then the inflation is, as some of you have learned, GDP deflated inflation is about minus 1%. Right? So I think that's my almost last slide. Yeah. So we wanted to know the implication for the Chinese economy. So I would predict the following. Okay. No matter what kind of Trump tariff policy on China, China's exports to the United States will fall sharply. And exports to other countries would not be able to make up for this gap. Secondly, in the first Sino-US trade war, China used the depreciation of renminbi as a tool.
I don't think China will use depreciation of renminbi as a tool again, because China now is facing much more difficult situation, and anything like hints the bad expectation about Chinese economy would be having, allow me to say, multiplying effect. Okay, currently renminbi is depreciating, but a very slow pace, right? Imagine if renminbi depreciated from 7.4 to 9.4, what would be the reaction of ordinary Chinese people? Everybody would rush to the bank to convert, renminbi for US dollar. And each and every one of us has a quota, right? And so that's the last thing the government wants to do. Just to the first priority is stability, stabilize the expectation. Okay, then if you do not use policies to offset the Trump tariff, then the result is you export less. And in the past, we do not want to export less, so we try to counteract. This time, I think we gave up on this export side, and we focus on maintaining the stability of renminbi rate. And as we were talking about before the meeting, and our panel guest, I do have this view. I think maybe it's too late, but better later than never. China should do very radical expansion of fiscal and monetary policy. Essentially, China's first priority now is to generate inflation. And what kind of things you do, anything you try to generate inflation in the Chinese society, and that's not the fundamental solution, but that's the must or the emergency thing that China must do. And of course, in the longer period, we need to do some transformation towards innovation and consumption and so on. Okay. So final slide. I think as a suggestion to anyone, either a company, a Chinese company, or foreign company, or families and individuals, I think U.S.-China relation is not the first order issue. The first order issue is not to miss the new technological revolution. Okay, be it company or even in CEIBS, our professors should be very much learning the AI tools of preparing for courses. Otherwise, 5-10 years later, CEIBS professors are the only professors in the world who do not know how to do that. Right? And that is going to be, because we were very open during this mobile phone internet period. Otherwise, we would not have Alibaba, Baidu, Tencent. We would not use this WeChat every day, right? Because at that time, there was no governmental regulation on these kind of things, right? After they grow up, we have more regulation. Similarly, right, this new wave of AI and so on. Right? Not to mention these high-quality chips that we do not have, right? But how about talent, right? Can you attract the best talent in AI technology? Yeah? Most of them are in the United States, but there are a lot of Chinese. Right? You want them to work in China for American company or for Chinese company or startup here. This is crucial. I think it's also crucial for the government. Okay, hopefully the government knows that it's not just about doing state-run big project, try to have a national effort to build the chips. Not going to work. Right? You need to have a free society. You need to have freedom in thinking. You need to have free access to important information sources. Second, I do think that inflation will come, okay? And so that's going to be a good for business, okay? It's going to be expansionary period. Therefore, I think you know, all of us should be positioned earlier for this arrival. Then the no-brainer, as I said, just for companies have more overseas investment. For individuals, have more allocation of assets abroad. Right? Finally, it's always a beautiful story that China has this much population, has this big size of middle class. Therefore, China is going to be the future engine for world growth because of consumption. Okay. I have to upset you by saying the China's consumption, not to mention to drive the world, even for being a driver in China, is a remote thing. Okay, and will not be realized. Very simple, okay, because China's money is concentrated in the hand of government, not in the hand of household. Okay. If you have not enough money to spend, even you have optimistic view about future, you still would not spend enough, not to mention today who has positive views about future. Okay. I try to rush a little bit, so I leave some time for questions. So I would be happy to answer any question. Yeah.
Let's give a big round of applause to Professor Xu Bin for that. We are now going to go to a Q&A session. If you'd like to raise a question, just raise your hand, and my colleagues will be providing a microphone for you. We would like to get a few questions in, so can I please request your questions are short and sweet, be concise. We also have a question from online. So my colleagues will be coming round with some microphones for you.
Hi, Professor Xu. My name is Wendy Huang from Global EMBA 23. And thank you very much for the enlightening and insightful session. I have two questions, but I appreciate if you could answer or inspire me on either of it. One is more broader and one is more practical. So during the first term of Trump administration in the global economy context, the words came up most frequently are protectionism, unilateralism, because he withdrew from mega trade agreement and also put more emphasis on bilateral trade over the international ones like WTO. So, well, the second term, the tone could probably be protectionism, but do you see any differences on his stance towards global trade and economy between the two terms, and what could China's strategies could be in response to these differences in the next few years? The second one, more practical, is the local governments, despite the tougher situations in foreign investment attraction, are still doing their best to attract foreign investment. Given the, the industrial and the supply chain relocation in the global economy in the next few years, what could be more promising industries for the Chinese local governments to target when they induce foreign investment? And for foreign investors, what policies or support from the government would be more appealing for them? Like when they consider to invest in China, what would they consider the most about? Thank you very much.
Okay, for the first bigger question, this is very early thinking, okay? But my hunch tells me that it's going to be a different Trump. Okay, I don't think he will go all the way with high tariffs against other countries. He would say that. Okay, the dog will bark, but the dog will not bite. Okay, and I think this time he is going to be more rational in the sense that not thinking about showing off muscles, but about building the future muscles, okay? So, using the previous muscle can only win short period of time. He wanted to win longer period of time for the United States, okay? So I think in a sense, it's good news for China in two senses. The first sense is that China will have less pressure on the tariff frontier, maybe even on other frontiers. Okay, I think between Biden and Trump, the Chinese government would like Trump more, because Trump is not, Trump is doing things with cost-benefit analysis. Okay, and Biden does not have that analysis. Okay, so it's not that Trump returned to the commercial, mindset. No, but he knows that just for example, continue to restrict the chips, to China, he would continue. Okay, but he would not be doing things like across the board tariff and so on, which hurts China but hurts American. He does not want to hurt American strength. I think that's the difference this time. Okay, and the first term he does not care. He just care about winning to build his points towards the second term. But now he has no second term or third term, right? He would and he was shot, which is also, as I said, don't underestimate that effect, right? And so he would do more rational things to strengthen the long-term U.S. power, as Reagan did. Okay, Reagan never see the day of the collapse of the Berlin Wall, but you would agree that the collapse of Berlin Wall was largely due to Reagan's reviving U.S. economy and the power of the United States. Right? I mean, think if I'm Trump, I would do the same thing. Right? Second, about what kind of things the local government of China are able to do. Okay. I think China is entering, I forgot to talk about the second point. The first is that Trump would make the immediate pressure to China less. Okay. The second is that Trump will increase the pressure on China in terms of doing things, meaning that, for example, China's relationship with the neighbors and China's intention towards Taiwan and so on. I think the fact that Trump is the president and Trump is focusing on strengthening the United States' strength, and that becomes a deterrent to not only China but many other countries, including Russia, to move forward. I think that's a good thing for China and for the world. Okay, the local government, I think in China, as we all know, doing business is about relationships with the government. Relations with the government is about the priority of the government, right? So if you look at the admission of undergrad students from Tsinghua, Beida, Fudan, and so on, they are not going to business area, finance area, economic area anymore, right? They are going to the hard tech department. In my year, I was studying Fudan. It's called the World Economy Department. At that time, China just opened, and this is the most attractive department, right? But now it's the hard technology department, right? Even I heard that many schools are having this AI department and so on, right? And so I think the local government should adjust, right? And try to follow the government's emphasis on so-called new productive forces, right? And then see what kind of policy. I think honestly, I think China will rely on foreign companies and foreign technology more in the next 10 years rather than less. Okay, I think as a result, I think China will treat foreign companies and foreigners better, not worse, in the next 10 years. And how much can be offset. So I tell my school leaders that we need to go through the tough period, but maybe in 5 years we are going to see the return of international students, applications, and so on. Because all in all, China is still a great place, right? I mean, Shanghai is a great place. It's just that, after you got this shock from this past 4 years, and then you still need some time. Yeah. But the government, I think, has changed its mind. I think you will hear from today on all the nice talks about Sino-US relationship, and not to mention nice words towards European countries, and a much low-key tone towards India and Southeast Asia countries, and probably, things will change in Ukraine, Russia, and North Korean things. So all in all, believe it or not, Trump is a good thing. We may not like it, but Trump is a good thing, in my opinion.
Okay, let's go to the next question, please.
I think the gentleman has tried very
in
hard
green.
to say things. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm from MBA 15. So, Professor, I got 2 questions. The first one is that the housing price and the leverage ratio. I saw some numbers that right now our leverage ratio is about 64%. It's a little similar to Japan in 1990s. But I also saw that right now the leverage ratio in US is actually down from over 100% to currently 70%. I'm not quite sure I get the number right. And so as the evidence that the housing price in China, they say that the housing price will continue going down in the next year and in a very long term. So, and also the housing price is also very correlated with consumption. So both the consumption and our investment departments will be very disappointed in future. So that leaves that stimulus package will be our only hope. The first question is that is housing price will still going down, and are we going to is our leverage ratio can go up to like 100% to save us like in 5 years? The second question is that since the new monetary policy in September last year, it's almost 4 months, and in the past 4 months, we are expecting fiscal policies, but nothing came out. The Treasury in China is like very comfortable where we are right now. It's very disappointing. So is there really going to be a big stimulus package in the coming March or near future? Yes, that's my 2 questions.
I'm online, right? That makes a big difference in terms of my answer, okay? Allow me to say the following. I think whether it's a government economist or non-government economist, whether it's a Chinese economist or a foreign economist, we have been asking for a radical fiscal policy for the past 2 years. Yeah. This is a consensus among professional economists. Right? We know China has a lot of problems, some demographic, aging, and so on and so forth. But that is a long-term thing. Okay, there's the emergency situation that the Chinese economy is down. That's the emergency. It's like a person who, maybe having some long-term disease, but this is not time to talk about the long-term disease. This is the time to send the person to emergency room. How to rescue the Chinese economy from the emergency? I think there's only one way. That is big amount of money supply and stimulus. Maybe my students already forget about the difference between fiscal and monetary policy. The monetary policy depends on many aspects to be effective, right? The central bank can print money and buy the financial assets so that the money is flowing out. That money is called the base money. But for the base money to be really having an effect on the real economy, you need the bank commercial bank to make loans, and then you need the companies to borrow the loans. So if the economy does not give you this confidence expectation, right, who will borrow, right? In China, making the loan may be easier because the commercial banks are listening to the government, right? They are part of the government. But state-owned companies may follow the order to borrow, but how about the private sector, right? I mean, so I think in the end you have to use fiscal policy, because the fiscal policy in the past, China was building a road, do a airport and do a faster speed train, and immediately have effect, right? Because you do not need to rely. China's so-called political system advantage is that we do not need a Congress to pass the bill, right? I mean, we just do it. Local government can do it. Borrow from the platform money and then do it. Unfortunately, that part is overcapacity, right? But still, you need to find the places to do fiscal policy. And not just fiscal policy, but a big fiscal policy, right? But you know that fiscal policy rely on borrowing, right? So China's debt ratio is already very high. And Chinese local government is not having money. How can you stimulate them to do it? This is why the central bank already announced that the central bank will buy government debt, right? Of course, this is a legal action because the other countries also do it, because this is called in the second, it's called open market operation, right? You print money, then you buy government debt, but it looks like the second market, but it can be the way that you are just buying directly from the government bond, so that the government gets money. The money is printed from nowhere, and the money actually flows to the government hand to do fiscal policy. So that will immediately generate demand, right? Where to invest? There are so many places, which I call this service sector, right? About elderly care, child care, education for immigrant workers, and so on, right? All in all, you can call human capital investment, not consumption. Consumption is later, okay? You first need to make people feel safe, social safety net, okay? And these kind of things government invest will have the same effect as investing in land and infrastructure, which will pull China out of this emergency room, okay? Now the key question. Despite all these suggestions, why has it not happened? Or it is said to happen, but not as much as we expect. That part is a taboo for say, because that's called decision making, right? And now China is very centralized. Therefore, the decision making goes to the end, right? And this is taking a longer time, okay? My new MBA students learned that this is called the lag effect, right? I mean, so the lag effect for Western country is the Congress, passing. But the lag effect for China now is that it has to go to the highest authority to sign it, right? So that is why we waited for the third session of the 20th CPC committee. We do not get a lot. We wait, and the only time that the government came out by itself is in the end of September, as you said, which is because the first three quarters data was so bad, so that the 5% growth rate becomes in danger. And that part, 5%, right? It's like the parents here, my son and daughter, 99%, you know, or GPA 3.9, right? I mean, and we care so much, and the government cares so much about achieving that. Okay, you say, you know, you probably hinted that achieving it can through the statistical bureau, but you know, it's like you cook something, you have to have things to cook, right? I mean, so I think the policies that launched in the end of September are for pushing the economy to produce more raw data so that it can be cooked out a dish which is 5%. I mean, and the Chinese economy was pushed a little bit, you know, up, right? But that is not enough. Right? And the people get excited that during the national holiday, October, you know, thinking that the stock market will go to, you know, very high, you know. I cannot, you know, I was teaching actually EMBA students in Beijing on September the 28th, 29th, right? I cannot just put cold water on their heated head. I mean, but during the holiday, when I was talking to my relatives, I said that, you know, I expect no more than 35,000. They say, oh, 4,000 and so on. But back to the question, okay? Housing and everything is a nominal price. So I always, when I do a teaching, I always ask the question, why advanced country central bank target 2% inflation rate, not 0% inflation rate? That's because we ordinary people all have monetary illusion. We want to see the number bigger, right? You want your salary going up, right? So having the nominal, you know, number going up is adding oil to the economy. If we have a deflation, that is the prices are going down. Then that is really having very bad psychological effect, you know, on you. That's the story of Japan, right? Japan did not understand that expectation is the key to manager rather than the interest rate. So Japan was cutting the interest rate to 0 over 10 years. And that did not affect the negative expectation of the Japanese economy. While when US went down during the 2008-9 financial crisis, Ben Bernanke, right, Princeton macroeconomist, and lucky for the world to have him to be the Fed chairman, immediately cut the interest rate to 0, and not just stop here, but just print money like crazy to buy in the market the long-term bond, the company bond, the mortgage bond, to give impression to everybody, the headline every day, that there's not going to be deflation. This is called quantitative easing, right? So, comparing the Japanese failure case and the US successful case, right? What China should do? I mean, the answer is very clear, right? Get all the prices up, including the housing price. Right? It's not about the nominal price, right? You say housing price is already too high, right? How about making other prices even higher? Housing price increased by 2%. Stock market increased by 5%. Commodity price increased by 10%. Of course, people, you cannot do magic. Some people will suffer, especially ordinary people, because you will pay a high bill for electricity, for food, right? And this is why you are a socialist country. You allocate resources to help the poor people. Can you? You take my 45% money, and then you give it to people who need. Can you? Right. So I think there is a solution, right? But the immediate fix is to make prices high. Okay. I of course do not advise right now to buy any houses, right? Because relative price is going up. So you should be distinguish between the nominal price change and the relative price change, right? I mean, relatively speaking, relative price for housing is going to go down. But if the older prices are going down, this is making us no incentive or no stimulus, no optimistic, just it's dark, right? So no matter what kind of things you do, I even propose to print the bill of 500 yuan, right? To scare people, right? Just if you do not spend renminbi now, your renminbi will shrink in value, right? So I think that is my view. Yeah.
Professor, I'm sorry for the room. We have an online question.
Okay.
And we also want to follow the schedule. So we're going to stop the questions from the audience. Apologies about that. I can see there's many hands up. But this is an online question, Professor. If China is less inclined to focus on export growth to the US during the Trump second presidency, and if developing economies can't fill the gap, will this increase the EU's importance to China as an export destination? If so, are there key products or areas where we might see increased China-EU trade? Thank you.
Okay. Very good question, okay. I'm still actively recruiting new and young professors to CEIBS. And they always ask me the question, right? Is there any risk that you see by resigning from a US position to join CEIBS? My answer is the following, okay? If our school is called China-US International Business School, don't come, right? And, but luckily, we are called China-Europe International Business School. So I think that is, each and every country, between countries, you cannot say they are friendship, right? I mean, there are only interests, right? But I think you cannot be alone. I think this is why if Trump do the isolation, policy, that's good for China, right? Because you gave up this leverage, right? So I think the new Trump should, try to build some relationship with Europe and so on. Like what Biden did, not as much as Biden, but if Trump withdraw completely from the international, organization area, that of course benefits China, right? So I think Trump will not this time, yeah. But I think in terms of Europe-China relations, in my estimation, China will try to do a lot of things to please the US, to alleviate the pressure. But for Europe, I think China, I don't know, I should really, there is not much probability to improve the Sino-US relationship, but there are a lot of rooms to improve the Sino-EU relationship, right? I think a lot of things is because of Ukraine and so on, right? But I think with the new Trump administration, maybe, this Ukraine thing will be behind us quite soon. Yeah, and hopefully, because China has already signed certain treaties like with Europe, but because of a lot of geopolitical and political issues with regard to China, then the European countries really, especially the European Congress, right, do not want to approve this kind of treaties. And but look, Europe needs China, right? Germany especially, right? And China needs Europe. I think, honestly, this, if I say it openly, it probably is a little bit across the line, but internal circulation is not enough, let me say, for Chinese economy, right? We definitely need a so-called external circulation, that is to have international relationships, international demand, not only in trade, but also in investment, right? And in technology, right? Remember, China actually, of course, the U.S. did not like it, but China got a lot of technology from France, right? Including the lab in Wuhan, right? I mean, so China continues to get more, right? You have this Netherlands, producing this kind of machines and so on, right? On the basis of business profit, right? And they would definitely are willing to sell to China certain technology, but of course the U.S. would be abandoning, right? I mean, but there's a lot of rooms, right? You know that even during our ordinary life, right, there are certain things in the gray area that you can actually do it, right? I mean, so not to mention international, not to mention between sovereign countries, right? Europe has, is pressured by U.S., but does not need to listen to the United States like 100%. I mean, so I think I hope, okay, China will behave diplomatically in a calm way, rather than, because it's all about, mutual benefits, right? Getting mutual benefits is not by forces, okay? If Trump wants to use forces, that's his loss, right? So we should really, if I even say it more high level, China should promote certain high level of universal values, not Chinese style universal values, but values universal to all human beings. We can, right? Don't emphasize too much about the Chinese characteristics, right? We are all human beings, right? We have the common things, right? We have something love, something hate, something we like, something we don't like, right? It's not that the Western universal value, everything we all like, right? Of course, it's not that all Chinese value we like, but can you promote the part that all of us like? I mean, that is maybe too much to ask, but I think if China wants to be a leading country in the world, wants to contribute to the development of human being, then China should think in this high way. If you think in this high way, you will behave in a more humble way. And that is beneficial not only to the other countries, but mostly to China. Okay? And if this generation cannot do it, younger generation will be able to do it. I am very much hopeful and also optimistic about China's future. My optimistic view about future is relying on young people sitting here, right? You are having the mind which is more modern, and then time solves the problem. I mean, hopefully it come earlier, but whether it's come earlier, come late, it will come. That's the thing, right? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Big round of applause to the professor. Okay. For the next part, we're going to talk about this question further from the industry perspective. So I would like to warmly invite to the stage our panelists. And actually, we're very lucky to have one of our senior alumni will be the moderator, Richard Hong from GEMBA 2016. We've also got Julien from GEMBA 2017 and Annabelle who are going to talk about this question more from the industry perspective. And Professor Xu Bin has very kindly offered to stay in the panel as well. Hardest working man in CEIBS. So let's give a round of applause for our panelists. Can you please join us on the stage? Thank you.
Good afternoon. Just test the mic. We still have 80% of the audience. That's remarkable. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be invited here to moderate the panel. My name is Richard Hong, part of GEMBA 16 class. I think it's let the floor. Professor, without introduction, everyone knows you. How about Annabelle? Would you like to give a bit of brief introduction of yourself to the audience?
Thank you. Just briefly, this is Annabelle. I'm from GEMBA.
You probably want to turn it on first.
This is Annabelle. I'm from GEMBA 2018 cohort. I'm currently, for the past 18 years, working for automobile industry and working in Bosch Group. Yeah.
Afternoon, everybody. My name is Julien. I'm from France originally. I've spent 17 years in China, and I work for a German company who sells equipment to the railway industry in China.
Excellent. So, my job for this panel is to uncover things that otherwise wouldn't be discussed. So, start with Julien. You work with the SOEs, and you, in a simple language, you help them in the railway industry. What's your observations in the recent 3 to 4 years about the economies and your business, and in the context of what Professor just shared as well, briefly?
So the customers that we have, they are the companies in China building the trains. So they are very significant SOEs, largest of them in Chongqing. We are talking about 50,000 people per company. And we do indeed collaborate a lot with them. What we have seen over the last 4 or 5 years is that these companies are really morphing. They are modernizing themselves. Sometimes we probably have a bit of a, not the best idea about SOEs, saying they are dinosaurs and things like this. But we should not discount them, not put them in the same bag, because they do evolve, they do progress, they do invest in technology, and now they are really going abroad, trying to get some markets outside of China.
Okay. Professor, one question for you. You talk about the internal circulation, consumption, at least does not meet your expectation. What's your view about Chinese company going global? Because it is the themes, and we have numerous lectures and topic on that one. What's your view on that one?
I think all companies, if possible, should establish a certain presence abroad. Okay, other foreign companies are doing China plus one. I think our companies also need to do China plus one. Okay? Reason, first, I think China is entering a period of lacking demand, then more cutting throat competition, or in Chinese term, 卷. Okay, and so I think Chinese market in your business terminology is red ocean, getting redder and red, and so I think going to the other countries, despite having a lot of obstacles, to overcome, is necessary. And recently I was contacted by our executive education department, and apparently our school will have a 5-module program focusing on companies overseas, and I was invited to give 2-day talk on the issue. So I'm preparing to study the Japanese companies under U.S. is pressure, how to moving from Japan to U.S. So on. So I think there are 2 trends, right? One is what I mentioned, the technological trend that you cannot miss. Right? The other is the going abroad trend, and you should not miss. Of course, not each and everyone is fitting, suitable to moving, but you need to think about it, okay? And there are obstacles, but you need to think about it, to diversify, and especially if you are considering the next 10, 15-year time period. At that time period, if you do not have foreign presence, you may take too much risk by just staying in China.
Thank you. Thank you. Then in the topic of going abroad, Annabelle, you were more of a company from global coming to China. I was reading one of your publications about your companies around, your industry, at least your company is generating at least 20% out of the global revenue from China or Greater China contents, right? And then you have a fair share about global company coming to China and Chinese company going abroad. Would you like to share your point of view and some of the takeaway from your professional field?
Thanks, Richard, for the question. I think Professor and also Julien just elaborated also the perspective, and Professor really gave an overall trend, which is I can really echo from the industry I worked in. Bosch Group actually has multi-business sectors. One of the biggest is automobile and mobility, and also we have consumer goods. And I think the automobile industry, most probably the new energy car, whatever you call this, electric cars, are the most driven industry, one of the most at least in the past years as well. While also, I think, positively surprised the world about our speed and about our innovation here in China. And Bosch is so lucky to grow with our customers in the past years. Now, I want to echo what Professor Xu Bin just mentioned, that our customers, our Chinese OEMs over the past years built many capacities, we know that. And if we only sell in China, then the capacity definitely will be some surplus. Then that's why most of our customers, the Chinese OEMs, the key strategy, most of them, one of them is going global, going abroad. Yeah, of course, they choose different areas. They may have different focus, but going abroad is the strategy. And for Bosch in China, as a company starting from Stuttgart in Germany, we have global footprint across the globe. Then Bosch China's one of the responsibility is also to support our customers going abroad. So we definitely see that trend. And I think this is also the growth opportunity for multinational companies like us in China. So we do not only grow in China, we also grow together with our customers around the globe. So I see that trend definitely.
Okay, it seems pretty a consolidated view about going abroad. Opportunities are obvious. Let's talk about the challenge. Julien, when you work with your client, your business partner going abroad, what's the biggest challenge that you experienced, that encounter in this journey of going international?
That's a tough question. There are many challenges that they're facing because many of the European companies, Western companies in general, they have been abroad for a long time and they probably forgot how difficult it can be. For China, it's more recent, I would say. And so those corporations in China, they have a size in China, which being national is already larger than some multinational in the Western world, okay? So they are significant companies. And going abroad, they have the feeling that they have already this power and they have the people, the talent, the finances. And I think one of the biggest difficulties is to underestimate who are the stakeholders outside, what does it take to build a local organization, and how it can collaborate in a very balanced way, rather than expecting things abroad should happen the same way as in the home country.
Yes, yes. And Professor, I want you to prepare my next question for you, but before I get to you, I want to ask Annabelle as well. You definitely, before we came in here, we had the sort of, tea and coffee and talk about rolling a Chinese business management to overseas is difficult. To Japan, to Mexico, to Spain, you might require 3 different approach, right? And we know that in general consensus, sometimes it's easy to just roll it out. Inevitably, that's going to be challenged, right? So you have seen the common mistake that most corporates will make, but you definitely have seen something that surprised you. Say, wow, I didn't think of that. Can you share a bit of those experiences?
Yeah, I can share a few from examples where our customers and also some of my alumni, CEIBS alumni, I talk with them to learn from them. And I definitely see the challenge that Julien just mentioned. And I think first of all, if I see some companies who are doing successfully when they are expanding globe, most of them have the mindset that what brought us here in China won't bring us there in other countries. And different countries have different geopolitical environment, have different talent situation, also different law background. So that's why I think I've learned one company who's doing really good in several different countries. Their clear policy is that they have the same value, but they have like one country, one policy, one strategy. So this really adapt to the local environment. I think that's something, one example I can share. And second, echo to the challenge, I think Julien, you mentioned talent. Then I do think for many of the Chinese companies going abroad, one of the key challenge is whether you have the adequate global talent. I think like Professor Xu mentioned, talent is very key for countries, but also for the companies. At Bosch, I know a great leader. He mentioned really why Bosch could be successful. He really emphasized talent is the key. He said, I quote Suzhou because I was born in Suzhou. If we want to have a Suzhou first-class company, then we hire Suzhou first-class talent. If we want to have a China first-class company, we hire China first-class talent. But we want to be worldwide first-class company, then we need world-class talent. And this is currently still the key challenge for many Chinese companies going abroad. I see some CEOs, I know many companies who are really struggling on this. And I think that's a very important place to work on. And that's why also, I think like Professor mentioned, we shall build on something higher. So that's why I see many Chinese companies now are really building their, also their vision and also their even DEI policy. In the States, we know that in some companies, they are changing their views about how they position DEI. Well, I also see some global companies in China, they are putting the inclusion, diversity in their company value. I see some of the successful examples if they want to hire great talents outside of China. So just want to give a few examples. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Putting it there is one thing, but live through it is another, and it will be a journey to go through, and we work with our alumni and classmates and colleagues. Those regular discussions definitely help. And for Professor, you work with our alumni, who most of them could be are the decisions of the company. Through their journey of this going overseas, what's the suggestion to them? Would they encounter any counter sort of pressure from that destinated countries?
We all learn from mistakes. You do not do things. You do not make mistakes. But you are going to be still always a child, right? So I think first, we need to do it, no matter what. And we may fail, we may, having some troubles, but you learn. Second, very important, okay, how to effectively learn is that you need to learn from others. Therefore, if we have a body of alumnus, students, professors together, to create an environment, to learn, that would be very valuable. This is why I support the school's effort, to really systematically build education training program focusing on companies, especially Chinese companies, going global. Right? Secondly, I would say that it's not just about making money. If you have this mindset, then you do not go very far. Right? I mean, I think our alumni here, because of CEIBS culture, understands that there are high level things to seek. Seeking high level things would make you feel good, make your behavior moral, and make you attractive, and make your company welcome in other countries. So we do need to inject this kind of thinking. Okay, it's not just about doing a little bit of this and that nice. It's about whether it's like a person, right? Are you a good person? Are you a decent person? Or are you a person who pretend to be good? Right? You can tell very easily, right? I mean, so a company is the same. The identity. Right? So this is why I say I'm optimistic about the future of China, because our younger generation, they were born in the reform and opening era. They have seen, many of them have seen the world. Right? I mean, and they are much better positioned than us. Not to mention then the people older than us, right? To explore the world, and so this is not just being forced to go out, right? Honestly, maybe some people are still caring about this piece of land for this country and that country. But maybe 20, 30 years later, this is no longer an issue, right? I mean, and with technological progress, artificial intelligence, so on, the world become a completely different world, right? Some leaders are still live in the past, and even you live in the present is not enough. Right? I mean, so the history will move forward. And we may be a little bit ahead of the curve, right, here. And maybe forced, for example, if a person is forced to suffer, if the person survives, the person gains a lot of value, right? Similarly, the Chinese economy is not doing good. The entire environment is not good. And you are forced to adjust out of your comfortable zone. Maybe that turned out to be the treasure, right? You would never get if Chinese economy is still moving smoothly, if the whole world is still globalization, you would not find this kind of potential you are having, right? So I do think that it's we and the G, right? Crisis is a combination of this danger and opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you. So the crisis for TikTok might be an opportunity for Red Note, Xiaohongshu, right? And a lot of Chinese company born here in either GBA area or in Shanghai. From day one is global. I mean, if we go into the headquarters of Danspy in Shanghai, if you go there at 10 o'clock and then look at the number of lightened windows, they were there. I mean, I have friends and colleagues over there. They are there to cater the Spanish market, the Mexico market, things they want. So those are the things that a lot of Chinese company, might be Chinese company, but the DNA things they want is global. That's just my personal observations. And with that, I want to ask the personal observation from Julien as well. How many non-Chinese in the audience that have lived in China for greater than 16 years? Can you please raise your hands? We have 1, 2, okay, less than 10. Among those 10, one of them is the audience here. I mean, the panel here. So, Julien, you have been in Shanghai for what, 17 years? When you first landed in this great land, was a 6 months interns. That was your intention. Okay, talk about how did you change your mind and what's your observation over the last 17 years, please?
I don't think I really changed my mind. It just came one opportunity after the other. And so what I observed originally, I was working for the automotive industry. And At the time that I was having already a few years working in China, we started to have this 2008 crisis, and things in Europe didn't go very well. We were talking about cutting. Everything had to be cut, okay? When in China, at the same time, everything was ramping up. So a completely different work environment. And to be honest, if you have to choose between working on a cost-saving program or working on expansion program, I think most of us would go for the expansion program. So this is definitely one of the reasons why I stayed in China for a few more years. And then some other opportunity came. But what changed over those years, then I really started to work for my current company and with those SOEs, okay? And what I really saw is that they move from being able to execute something to being able to develop a new product, to be able to industrialize it, and to be able to even improve products which were coming from abroad. If we take a single example of the high-speed train in China, this is a thing of beauty, and I think all of us, we are very happy now with the convenience it brings. On day one on the high-speed train in China, none of the parts inside were Chinese. And for the last few years, there is now a train which runs in China, which is the Fuxin train. It's 100% Chinese. This is built by the so-called state-owned enterprises. And it can give you an idea on what has changed over 20 years. It's absolutely amazing what actually has changed. It's from maybe we copy or we buy from abroad to no, we have our own mind, our independence, we build our product, industrializing it, and now, because China has developed this technology, time has come to sell it abroad, and we're going to see how this is really working. But I think it's going to be really, really interesting.
Okay, so that's on the business, but culture-wise, people, society, I believe you set up a family here and now as a father of two. What's your observation, I mean, on the lighthearted, on the culture element of it?
On the business, I mean, we have, I think we have a fundamental change in generation. I think we used to have in the companies in China some very abiding people, very, very hardworking, and which at a certain point have been extraordinarily useful, still are. And now there have been a lot of debates about this Generation Z, Generation X, and whatever. This is now very different. And indeed, we see a different type of profile entering the Chinese companies. How is it reshaping things? This is really hard to say, because I would say that on the one hand, on the very traditional industries, like probably mine, the ability to adapt is probably a bit too slow, and therefore it's probably not positive. At the same time, these new mindsets, they might have an extraordinarily positive impact on companies which are more tech-driven and, as you mentioned, originally built international from day one with a bit of a different mindset. So it's really hard to say how it's going to go ahead in the future. Right now, there is probably, and again, from this generational point of view, there is obviously a transition.
Thank you. Just continue to be you, please. Hold on your mic. Fuxin train going global. It's easy to imagine that building train railway in emerging country, Africa, Eastern Europe, any part in the world, it's ideal world. If you were to advise your client, the SOE, that if things can go wrong, you need to watch out for these 2 points. What are those 2 points? If your clients go in there to build a road, you should watch out for point A, point B. What are those two?
I don't think the Fuxin train is a good example on this one, because high-speed train, it comes with a significant amount of existing infrastructure, and this is not necessarily easy to sell abroad. What China can do now is really to help certain developing countries to set up their own infrastructure, because it's been done in China. They went from 0 to nearly 30,000 kilometers of high-speed train. This is the case also for the metro. So they can actually really do that. The advice I would give to them, it's really to probably do what many companies have done. I'm talking about foreign companies, what they have done coming to China. For some time, China was just the factory of the world, so things being produced in China, exported back to the Western world. And then we had a very strong wave of in China for China. And I think those companies have been very successful. This is what my company has done, meaning that we produce in China for the Chinese market, but this is the entire strategy of the company. The R&D is in China, the talent pool is in China. We really develop in China. Currently, in terms of foreigner in my company, at least in China, very, very few. 15 years ago, we might have had 100 foreigners. Now it's not the case anymore. So the advice going abroad would be, well, apply to yourself what you've seen other companies doing coming to China, meaning going abroad means setting up abroad with the roots abroad, the way of doing things abroad, and really investing it on the long term rather than giving the impression that I'm just here to make a labor arbitrage or whatever else, okay? This would be really my point and my advice.
Thank you. Professor.
Yeah, I fully agree, you know. We Chinese say 入乡随俗, okay? And so if you think that, you know, we have efficiency, we have technology, we have experience, then we go to every country, we replicate what we do, that mindset is completely wrong. And I think people are different, right? And you need to, it's like if you have a class of, you know, primary school students, right? If a teacher is good, then the teacher should be able to explore the different talents among them, and just not like one size fits all. So I think this is quite difficult, honestly, to change the mindset of Chinese executives. You know, to tell them that you completely need to change your mindset in terms of how people work in the other country, how people believe, how people take, you know, consider, you know, the leisure time, you know, so on and so forth, everything, you know. And I think, you know, people in China may watch more international news and thinking that Americans and other country people only watch local news. But do you truly understand other countries? Maybe not. Maybe not as much as even those people in other countries. So I think the first is mindset and attitude. And just I would have to say that China has grown spectacularly, but only for 40 years. And so don't think that you hold the key, you know, to solve the problem, okay? And be humble, and be, you know, taking a learning attitude, right? And this is much more than important than anything else, right? Then, of course, hold a high moral standard is also very, very important, right? Should not show this greedy face, right? I mean, try to explore the local advantage, you know, to benefit solely your company, okay? I think we all should live a much valuable life, and then just, you know, take advantage or calculating, or in our Chinese saying, you know, 精致的利己主义者, okay? And I think CEIBS should really educate, you know, especially these executives who have ambition, you know, towards the future. You are in the age of 40 to 50, many years ahead of you, right? And be a high-value person or a low-value person makes a big difference for yourself, for your company, and for your future generation. You know, I think these kind of things we should really talk more. Okay.
I got a question for you, Professor. I want to touch base on the talent and intellectual. When you talk about when we think about export, you normally think about goods exports. But what's your take on intellectual exports? We see McKinsey in China. We haven't seen a Chinese consultancy company offshore. This is relevant to what Julien just shared as well. The intellectual, the know-how, right? I know we are not there yet, but how far away from exporting or sharing those to the rest of the global community?
So it's a great question. It's a great question, and there are so many things that the Chinese society needed to develop. Okay, this is not what you mentioned is not really the first thing. I think the first thing is about how we parents, educate our kids, and that is of course a big thing. The current way of Chinese family educating kids are totally wrong, and which will destroy, our future generations. But fortunately, we do have a small group of family who are affluent enough so that their kids are enjoying more free, thinking, and so that many of our MBA students are very much open-minded. That's a great thing, right? So I think China is really having a scale advantage. I mean, even we are not there, but there are a small percentage of talent who are there. I mean, I think it's all about how to utilize, although the smaller percentage, but actually quite a large absolute number, right? I mean, the talent. And I remember that when Alibaba was still running, very high, and one of our MBA students, very beautiful Spanish lady, was hired by Alibaba, very happy, and so on. Okay, so they not only they are Chinese talents, but also they are international talents. If China has the ambition to catch up with or even overtake US, isn't it true that you need to also tap on international talents? And CEIBS is a great place, to nurture certain international talents for China. I mean, if you do not really, so I think it's one is the government thing, but we cannot put too much hope on the government, right? But if the government gives us a certain room, we should do it. Right? I mean, so CEIBS, for example, should really have this. You should not just sit on the seat saying that I'm Asian #1 and so on, right? You should really, develop into a high-value place, and we actually can do that, right? I mean, a small contribution adds up, become bigger, right? So I never believe a government-led project too big to succeed, right? And you need to rely on this each and every company or and for the question that I was talking about at the beginning, the family raising kids. You should not just want the government to have a universal program to educate the parents. You educate yourself, right? Make your kid, a true person rather than a person every day to memorize things, right? Starting from that, then we are going to have a bright future. So I think touching on this sort of business issues, actually the business issues are not about the business. The business issues is more about the high value, and I think we should move towards that direction.
Yep, high value. Annabelle, you share a piece of article with me about your company that you have local talent, develop and recruit here, and then ended up being abroad to join the headquarters or global group and be a valuable asset, Chinese national, by the way. So can you share a bit of that in terms of talents, cultivations, and globalization?
Yes, I think in the past 20 years, a lot of multinational companies and also Chinese company born the first day, like global company like you mentioned, I think hired a lot of great talent, and they have developed throughout the past years. Some of them entered the golden age that also the right experience that they can take global roles. So in my company, we do have talent who is now leading global business, Chinese talent who are leading global business. And for example, in areas like fuel cell, which in China we develop first. So China now, also in my group, we quote this as like a fitness center of the company worldwide in certain areas. And we also see China that there are also innovation which we can bring to industrialization faster here with combining, I think, the both strengths. So that's why, for example, the colleague who was hired here locally, like more than 10 years ago, and developed with the automobile market, and he also has supported the global market. But in between, we also carefully, deliberately also assign this person in a global role in Europe also for 2 years, like an international assignment in Germany. Not the P&L leader, but now that he grew from China as a fuel cell leader now in Germany, located in Germany, to leading a global business. I just want to share this example, and I see more examples, because I think China's talent, also in these years, we have some global talent who are able to really play important roles and bring innovation from China to the globe. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we're half an hour into our session. I was given 45 minutes to moderate the panel, and I want to leave just a bit of space for interaction with the audience as well. Is there anyone that have a question? I know there was some question for Professor, but Professor already answered some. Is there any question for two of our panelists as well, or myself? Is there anything from the audience first?
Yeah, hello. I'm just, have a question from different angle, because I know the subject is talking about China's economy, but let's say from the investment from a WOFE company, let's say, I'm a member of supply chain function. So in the past 20 years, we talk a lot about global sourcing. In fact, there is a China sourcing play behind because it can generate a benefit for the company. However, in the recent 3 or 5 years, the word like resilience appears very frequently, in fact, because of the geopolitical reasons behind. So if you are an advisor to the CEO for a WOFE company having huge investment in China already, and what will be your strategy for next investment? And second question is, if you are a CEO for a US company, would you act differently?
The first question is the advisor for any company that want to reduce their reliance of supply chain to a single country. And the second question is, if you are a US company CEO, how would you think from that angle? Yeah. I said good questions. I think we can ask Julien to start with.
I mean, in terms of supply chain reliance, yeah, I think the COVID was a highlight that there was probably too many eggs in the same basket at some point, and the dependency upon China was a bit too large. And so now the supply chain, and is the case for many of the international groups, the supply chains are deleveraged, redistributed, and I think for the better. So my advice, honestly, if this was the case, would be to say, well, don't find yourself reliant too much on a geographical area. And if you have this WOFE in China, and if you probably source some goods for some companies outside of China, good. But I think the priority should remain to source in China what you need to manage your Chinese business. And if on top of that, there are some of the supplies which come to be exported, it can be done, but I think this should not be considered as probably the most stable source of future income.
Annabelle, what's your view?
I share the view. Actually, in China, if the business and the main customers are here, if we have the right customer base here, I think we shall still consider, to have the supply chain in China. Well, to have regional balance and to have some measures to de-risk is always something that a global company shall consider. So I can fully echo what Julien just mentioned.
Yeah, Professor. Complexity of supply chains and reduced reliance.
Let's be realistic. Okay, China has developed very deep supply chain, and unless, right? I mean, I always say unless, you have absolutely no other choice, then you leave. Otherwise, you do not leave. It applies to myself, okay? And unless, the situation is such that I have to leave my beloved school, but as long as, the situation allows us to. Well, China is a great place in terms of size, in terms of scope, in terms of talent, in terms of work ethics, right? I have coined these 3S advantage: scale economy, scope economy, and the speed economy. How can you be as fast as China, right? So these kind of things are very much difficult to replicate in other places, right? I mean, if I read stories about Foxconn, moving some business to India, right? And then the amount of products which are not up to the quality level, the percentage is much larger, right? I have nothing against India, but I think China has grown and developed, and because the workers are not about going to the school, the workers are learning to be a very skilled worker, over years during the process, and so China has already accumulated this much amount of difficult to replace resources, right? And so I think if I were advising the CEO of
US
multinational US, I think you still need to think about, utilizing the China side. Don't be scared by Trump. I think Trump, in my view, will be more pragmatic than Biden or other US politicians in his term. And that pragmatism will be beneficial mostly for US, but also will beneficial for China. And so this is not the time to abandon China. Actually, this is the time to appreciate the value, and the potential value will be even larger. And so despite I have a lot of worry about the Chinese economy and so on, but I never doubt the value of Chinese private sector and the country in terms of its characteristic. And it's not about the characteristic of the Chinese government per se, right? It's the characteristic of Chinese people and the society, and which actually is going to be good for business, especially business from abroad.
Please.
I think what Professor mentioned just inspired me. I want to share one or two examples. I think I want to give an example that from our global CEO and our global board, we decide to definitely continue to further invest in China. Last year, we just opened a $1 billion US site in Suzhou for the investment, and this year we are actually funding another JV with Jinglian in Nanchang to be closer to our customer. And we firmly believe that China, I think the whole supply chain, like Professor mentioned, we have full confidence, and we believe this is a great market. And last but not least, as a Chinese people, I'm really confident about our talent. I think I just give an example, some Chinese talent going abroad and taking also the global role. And I think Chinese people's resilience, Chinese people's flexibility, learning agility, and also in our culture, we really have the spirit of when there is a big mission of things coming up, and we complete that. So I think also the young generation, because different people talk about, maybe there's some young generation among them are 躺平 or lying down. But I was personally interviewing a lot of trainees and fresh graduates, and also work closely with them. And I want to personally observe. I see many of them, because they are born in very educated by in a great family, give great education, and they are free of choice, and they are not driven only by, for example, the the compensation. And many of them are brilliant, and they have the purpose. I want to make my environment more positive. If I'm here, I want to make this world a little bit better. I see those group of people in person, and that's why I'm very confident of our nation, also because of the talents, like Professor mentioned.
Yes, there's actually one of the questions from online as well about the multinational companies, their view, experience on China, and I think Annabella just answered that before I even ask. So we do have a couple of questions coming in, but given the interest of time, some sort of viewer asked about foreign direct investments of global company in China, or maybe Chinese company in global. And there's another question about, I'm sure this question, if China is going to have inflation, the asset price will go up there. Shall we consider allocating asset to China too? I think, Professor, how long do you think before we will have inflation in China?
I hope it will come this year, but it will depend on the determination of the government. And in game theory, there is a concept called credible commitment. Okay, so we have not seen full commitment yet, but even with full commitment, it should be credible. And I think this is a lot to ask for. But this is what the current Chinese government must deliver. And the time window is getting smaller. I hope the government would do it this year in a way, okay? And if China could not get out of this deflation, period, and then we do not even need to talk about the transition, towards a bright future. And so, but I'm confident that it will come, maybe later than we want it. And but you see, if we are pushed to the cliff, right, you will fail, right? And then the instinct for survival will bring you to do that. And so yes, I mean it's not a magic, right? I mean macroeconomics is not magic, but we do need certain things that is so powerful psychologically to shift if we watch the professional sports game, we know the momentum thing, right? I mean, so the momentum, towards a positive side is crucial, right? It's not something that you can describe in a variable or measure, right? It's just that the whole society feels like China is back life, having life again. But we are not at that point yet. I mean, so I think we should be positive. Don't think too much about the specific things such as housing price, and it all comes from this big momentum change. Okay, you would be able to say that Deng Xiaoping, in 1978, changed the momentum of the Chinese society, right? And that momentum lasted for 30, 40 years, right? Now is the time for China to have the momentum towards the future. And that momentum has to happen. And to have that momentum to happen, you need to have a radical policy, whether it's fiscal stimulus or monetary stimulus or political announcement or whatever, right? You need to have that right now to start the positive momentum for Chinese society and Chinese economy. Everything else follow, right? I mean, so that we need to be clear, right? I mean, we cannot do it ourselves. We are too little, but we know what it would become once China is having the right momentum towards the future. For a country which has experienced this successful past 40 years, for the country, people have seen the world, have known the ideas and the younger people and so on and so forth. All in all, in economics, the
theory is called big push theory. All in all, we just need a big push, okay? Whether it's from here or from there, okay? I can only say in today's context that Trump is helpful in this bigger momentum, but of course it will depend on ourselves in China.
Thank you, and that's a very good wrap-up. Giving back to the topic of today's headlines, I think Trump is a much-needed medicine for maybe the world. And I would like to thank Professors Tam. I think one very last question to the alumni here and the panel. In 30 seconds, each of you, why did you come to CEIBS? Julien, fast, please. The answer cannot be because Professor Xu Bing is here.
That was my answer. Come on, I
damn.
can't answer anymore.
Yes.
Why did I come to CEIBS? I really wanted to move ahead, sort of break the. I saw there was a ceiling above my head, you know, from middle management to higher management, and I thought that would really help me. So that's why I came. But this is not what I got, though it really happened for me. What I really got, because I was highly focused on the curriculum when I joined CEIBS. And when I realized is that though the curriculum is heavy, is impressive, and the professors are absolutely amazing, what was the most useful for me at the end was discussions with my classmates, the alumni network, which still, as of today, is a significant source of thoughts and progress.
Thank you, Annabelle.
I originally applied also because at a certain period, I really want to connect the dots and think about where I want to go further in career and also in life. And I actually got more than that. I think I really, after the education and knowing very different alumni, growing from different backgrounds, doing different things, I think I become more holistic person. I got some lifelong friends. And I also find, I redefined my purpose, what I want to do. I think that's very important for me. And last but not least, I really can echo, I think this is Hongfeng Lu Sports School. I actually started from, a person who don't do sports, who are even running 800 meters, I will feel very, hard for me, and I finished my first half marathon. I went to the Gobi Desert for the 4 days, so it's hard experience. But also sports become one of my, energizer, and I know a lot of lifelong friends. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. This question is optional for Professor.
If you have not joined the CEIBS, it's a big loss, okay? So join us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good to see you.